Hi, we just had a course, an online course with Amber Batson, the presenter, Amber Batson, the British veterinarian. So I'm going to talk about how we work with modifying behavior. I'm not going to give you any, unfortunately, I'm not going to give you any individual tips to your dogs about that today, but overall to give an idea how we do it when we're actually working with changing behavior in dogs. Okay? Because this is quite important. This is, of course, not to sum up a 2-day seminar at all. This is actually just confirming how we at Nordic Dog Center are working with behavior modification. And it's very much like what Amber Batson was talking about. So let me just share my PowerPoint with you on screen. Let me see. No, that was the wrong way. Here. Get the PowerPoint in full screen. I know, it's not that yet. There it is. So basically, changing a behavior of a dog. That's what I'm going to talk about tonight. There are many different ways of doing this. And the reason why I want to talk to you about it is we get a lot of clients who's been trying a lot of different things before they contact us. And I think that's quite normal. When it comes to dogs, I'm sure this is the same thing in your countries as well. A lot of people think they know what a dog is and how to handle it. It's a little bit like bringing up children. You know, we don't need to go to school to learn it. We ask our family or neighbors, or don't maybe ask the neighbors about our children, but we get the information in our environment and we think we know it. It's like the dog's language. I had an interesting experience this week. I just started 2 courses, dog training courses, here where I live in the north of Norway. And when they enroll for the courses, for the classes, they do get 3 or 4 lectures, online lectures, that they should watch before we meet in person. And this happens quite a lot, actually, that people are watching 3 of the videos of the lectures, which is about puppy training, you know, how to handle the puppy and so on. However, the one about the dog's language, most people don't watch. And that, I think that's very interesting, because it's not that they don't want to learn. I think it's because they think they know. So, and as many of you already knows, knowing the dog's language is so important for us to train it, and also how to be able to give it a good life and to understand and communicate with our dog. So a lot of customers, they are quite confused and frustrated by the time they come and ask us for help, because now you see they have to pay because this is our job, so people have to pay. And they've been working on the problem for many years. Very often they've been working on a problem behavior on their dog for many years. So they never really, you know, sort out the problem, because they asked too many people with different opinions. They tried too many different ways of doing it, and they end up mostly just frustrated and very confused. And so is the dog, because now they're mixing all the knowledge that they got from different people with different opinions about dogs and dog training and so on. So my hope is that it's getting more common to go to a professional dog trainer. Like we do today, we go to a dentist with our teeth. I wouldn't go to my regular doctor if I had a toothache. I would go to my dentist. And a lot of people go to the veterinarian when they have a problem with behavior. And most veterinarians that I have met are not interested or don't have the knowledge about behavior in dogs. That's two different things. They're very good at what they do, the medical stuff, but behavior is not really their cup of tea. And that's fine. So they need to find a professional that can show them one road to get there instead of all these detours. It just takes a lot of time and frustration. So first we need to find out if the behavior is a training issue or is it a behavior issue? Because it's a big difference. If it's a training issue, for example, pulling on leash, house training, puppy biting, recall, you know, that kind of stuff, it's training. You need to train the dog. If it's a behavior problem, for example, separation anxiety, or that your dog is afraid of humans or other dogs or cars or whatever it is, or like we were learning about this weekend, real serious abnormal behavior in dogs, repetitive behavior like chasing shadows and they're chasing their tails and yeah, this kind of repetitive behaviors that very often indicates a serious problem issue, a behavior issue, sorry. So the dog might have a problem behavior, yeah? But is it a training issue? Is the problem that the dog is not coming when called or that it's not walking nice on leash? Well, then you need to train the dog, yeah? If the dog is happy, it's healthy, it's nothing wrong with it, it doesn't have any issues with other people or cars or any anxiety or fear, then, you know, you just need to get help to find the best way of training your dog. And from my own experience, that's actually to do more training because we have a tendency to expect too much from our dogs compared to how much we are actually helping them to learn. Okay, so we're not going to talk about the training issues tonight because that's for another night, and that's nothing to do with problem behavior as such. So if you have a dog that you think might have problems with his behavior, for example, having separation anxiety is being extremely scared of being home alone. That is a behavior, that's a problem. It's not only a problem for you, it's a huge problem for the dog. It's very scared when it's home alone. Or if the dog is scared about for people or dogs or noises or fireworks, whatever it is, it's also a behavior issue. Yeah, the dog has some feelings you have to help him with. But in order to know what is the problem behavior, you have to know what is the normal behavior of a dog. And I also see that a lot of people don't know what is normal behavior in dogs. It's like the dog language. We think we know, but actually we don't. So a lot of the problem behavior is normal behavior. For example, barking or running after a cat for a puppy, that's very normal. Yeah. Growling, this is a good example. Growling, that's normal behavior. To growl is normal. It's a part of it's a very important sign as well to tell us that, you know, enough is enough. I feel threatened or I don't feel safe or something in this situation. Yeah. So don't punish your dog for growling. However, if your dog starts growling a lot because you're touching him, maybe he has pain. So now it's a behavior problem. But if your dog is together with another dog or even with you and you try to take a bone out of his mouth and he growls, that's normal. Okay, so first we need to know what is normal behavior in dogs. So they've been doing quite a few studies on feral dogs, or dogs that are street dogs, no owner, but living in our society. So they can observe them. And one of these studies that has been done on behavior, how a dog's normal behavior is most likely to be, shows that in a day, or actually in 16 hours, not 24 hours, the study was done between dawn to dusk. So it was 16 hours. However, we know that the sleep pattern is such that 60% of the sleep is approximately 60% is during night and 40% during day. So we can assume that quite a few hours of the missing part of the study they spent sleeping. However, listen to this. 54% of their time is inactive. They don't do very much. 20% sleep, rest, and so on. 27% is individual care, which is dogs are scavenging. They look for their food. They don't hunt their food. They scavenge. Don't know any other words for it, actually. So the 27% they are using to find food and to explore and to observe. And 10% of the time is affiliative. So that means that they're playing, they beg for food, they're going around actively approaching another living being. Could be a human begging for food, or it could be another dog or cat or anything that is a living human, no, living being. 6% of the time they spend consuming the food, chewing, eating it, and going to the toilet, grooming, and 3% vocalizing. That's not only barking, that's just all what they do, talking to each other. That's their vocal language. They have a very rich vocal language and a rich body language. So if you compare that behavior, what they do in 16 hours, compare that to how they live in your household. Is that how your dog is spending your day? Most probably not. Because we are giving our dogs food. They don't have to look for it. They might not be allowed to bark as much when they live with us. There's a lot of things that are very different, and I think you can see that. So, and this is just, like I said, this is 30 minutes crash course. It's a lot more to it than this. So, if you know that what the normal behavior is, and you suspect that your dog is not behaving normal anymore, according to what a dog should be, not what we expect them to be, then we might have a behavior issue. And this is, I think, one of the most important things is that we absolutely need to find the underlying cause of the problem. The old-fashioned way of treating this is to force the dog to behave in a different way. And that's kind of not something to brag about, because dogs, small, big dogs even, I mean, it's very easy for us human beings to punish them or to make them do something. But it's not getting rid of the problem. So if you have a dog that is showing aggressive behavior, it might very well be that that dog is doing that because it's in pain. And you can't punish a dog for being aggressive when he's in pain. Yeah, there's so many different examples about this, and it's really sad to see. I don't know if you can say that in English, but in Norwegian we say putting a lid on the casserole. Kind of when it's boiling, you just put a lid on it to prevent the water from coming out. That's what we do if we train or punish the dog for not doing that behavior. You can make your dog change the behavior by putting him in a cage, for example, in a crate, and closing the door. Okay? Then the dog will probably, not only probably, but it will stop chewing on things in your house because you took the dog out of the living room and in the cage. So he doesn't get the opportunity to do that behavior. Okay? It's not fine that you haven't done anything about the real problem. Why is your dog chewing everything in your house? Why is the dog chasing its shadow? Why is the dog barking all the time? Why is he behaving in these kind of ways? That might be the reason why you think he has a behavior problem. So, because a lot of behavior changes and problems has the reason is pain or a health issue, we first need to check and make sure that your dog is healthy. And I mean everything. Yeah, not only the vet, but also a therapist, so that they can check muscles and so on. If you have, like I said again, if you have a headache, you probably would go to your doctor, but maybe the headache is because that you have a problem with your teeth. Yeah. So you need to really make sure that the dog does not have a health issue. So you have to not only see a dog trainer and behaviorist, but you also have to see other professionals dealing with the dog's health. And when a dog has problems like fear, anxiety, they show it, by the way, a lot with being or offering or showing aggressive behavior. So it's already kind of very misunderstood in many cases. When a customer comes to us with a dog that has aggressive behavior, they think it's an aggressive dog, but actually it's very likely that it's a dog in pain. So when a dog has some problem behavior or behavior issues, just like us, there is something that is not in balance. Okay? And that we need to make sure becomes in balance. It's the same thing. We can relate it to all kinds of things with ourselves as well. We know it, that if you're not feeling well, or if you, I remember very well, I can relate to this very well with, I've had a heart attack. I've actually had two. And after my second heart attack, my brain got a little bit crazy. I felt I was really, even though I have red hair, I have, what you call it? I have a bit of a temper. I prefer to say energy. But I was really, really, really short-tempered. Very short-tempered the first week afterwards, after the heart attack. And that was in my head, and the heart was in my body. But it's a big connection when we know that. Okay, so I knew that I was short-tempered, and it was just very frustrating because I didn't want to be, and I was not even in pain then, because the heart attack has been operated. Everything was fine, but really I didn't feel good. So I needed to restore the homeostasis in my own body as well, the balance of chemicals and hormones. Everything in your brain, blood, everything has to be in balance. So we need to find the underlying cause. And how do you do that? You talk to the dog owner. You talk and you talk and you talk and you investigate and you observe the dog, because the dog will tell you the truth. The dog is not lying. If the owner is telling me, yes, no, he's very independent, he loves sniffing around and he's just very calm, he's not stressed. And then you see a dog sitting next to his owner, being quite energetic and just looking at its owner, asking for permission to do things, that either the customer is lying, knowing about that he or she is doing it, or in most cases, they think it's like that, but it's not really. They think they have an independent dog, but it's not. So we need to observe the dog. We call it being in an enriched environment. It could be indoor or outdoor, but it should be in a neutral place. And you can see a lot of the behavior then. I'll talk about that some other time. So you need to really get the full story from beginning to end and a lot of details. And then, of course, you need to compare that to what is normal behavior. So you need to know quite a bit about a dog. And you should know a little bit about different breeds. However, there are more individual differences within a breed than between breeds. But of course, as a dog trainer or dog behaviorist, you also need to know about breeds. So when you found the cause, or when you think you found the cause, you need to do something about it. So obviously, if it's a health problem, you need to take care of that health problem. Yeah, that's the first thing. But I'm not a veterinarian or a therapist, so that's for them to take care of. So the dog owner goes to the veterinarian, and ideally the veterinarian and the dog behaviorist or dog trainer are communicating together and helping each other out so they can find a good plan and solution for that dog. So I'm now presuming that the dog is under treatment or has been treated for a health issue. So when that is taken care of, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to wait, 3 months or something before you start also doing behavior changes with us, with the dog trainer. You can do things at the same time, depending on what the health issue is. If it's acute, of course, you have to take care of it immediately. Okay, so then the first thing we have to do is, if the dog is scared of something, for example, being home alone, the dog cannot be home alone until it starts to get less scared or not scared about it. If you're scared, your dog is scared for dogs or certain kind of people or environments, then you need to gradually help him. We are using, now I'm trying to think of the word in English, desensitization. So that means gradually getting closer to what they're scared of, gradually getting used to it. So aiming for not being scared, for being at home alone or for cars or whatever the problem is. But before that, we have to remove the triggers. And I'll show you why. Okay, so this is actually a page that I should have deleted because it's this one. So we need to remove the triggers about what stresses the dog. That is the triggers for that behavior problem. And of course, the triggers, what makes the dog do the behavior. So if it's something special that happens and the dog will start doing that problem behavior, you have to stop doing that as well. And stress is part of the problem. It's always actually a part of the problem, because your body gets stressed if it's in pain or discomfort in any kind, health-wise. Your stress levels, your hormone, you can't help it. But if your If you're stressed, your adrenaline and other sort of stress hormones have a higher level in your body. I was just discussing that actually with a friend of mine. We were discussing a heart attack and why you need to get a lot of pain relieving medication when you have the heart attack, because the heart needs to rest. It's very important for it to rest. And pain is actually making your heart, work more. So stress, certainly health-wise, and obviously if you have anxiety or are scared of something, you will be stressed if you are in that environment or with something that you're scared of. So stress level has to get down. You have to remove the triggers and you have to restore the stress levels. Make the stress levels lower. It's been 2 very long days, sorry, with working because I was arranging the seminar. So, okay, so we're still working, depending on how big the problem is, obviously, we need to get the scale right, yeah, even. So it might be a small problem, or that I showed you earlier, a bigger problem, so the scale is totally off, yeah, what it should be. So then we need to rebalance. That means going back to normal. Try to find ways to make sure that your dog get in most normal behavior as can be for the dog in your environment. That could be, then you have to know, of course, what is normal for a dog. So that could be nutrition. Maybe your dog has to change what he's eating. Maybe your dog has to get more meat in his nutrition, in his food. Maybe he has to get something or even more or different things to chew on. Chewing is a stress relieving activity, and it's also a social activity. Dogs like to do that together with other dogs, and it's a very natural activity. A lot of dogs are doing it up to 2 hours a day. And from research, they found that dogs like to taste and chew and eat more than 40 different textures and tastes. So you might have to give your dog different kind of bones, different things to chew on. And you have to allow your dogs to using all his senses: hearing, smelling, looking, feeling, touching, and the right kind of exercise, the right kind for that individual dog. So trying to restore back to factory settings, in fact. Factory settings now being what is most like what a normal behavior and a normal life of a dog would be. It's like us. If we go out of our normal, what we need, what our body needs, yeah, our body starts to work in funny ways to kind of make up for that. If you only eat junk food for a month, your body will start doing some changes on the way it's working, because it's not good for you to only eat junk food or to eat a lot of sugar, to do different things that is not normal for us. So we need to restore back to factory settings to get the homeostasis and the balance within, the stress levels down, the chemicals, the hormones in balance. Then you can start with the individual program for the dog to find the right amount and type of physical and mental exercise, for example. Yeah. And retrain. We need to find new behavior for whatever your dog was doing before. If your dog was chasing its shadow or its tail, it has to do something different now. And that's not something you just start training. Please don't. You need to go and find out if the health is good, because it's most probably not when it comes to this kind of behavior. But you see, if a dog has done something for a long time, they get really good at doing it. So if you walk across this field many times, we make a path. And that's what happens in your brain as well. If we do something a certain amount of times, you know, we get used to it. It's like brushing our teeth. Yeah, it's a go-to thing to do. We do it, and it's it's not an instinct, but it's something that it's very easy for us to do. So if your dog has been, for example, chained up in front of your house, is barking at people passing by, you can't expect him to stop doing that unless you find another path for him, because he would be very good at doing this. He's been practicing barking at people walking by your house for a long, long time. So you need to stop that path, and you need to find a new. You need to find an alternative behavior to do something else instead of using that they're very good at practicing. So that's why if you have a dog that is fearful, now we're coming back to, it's in the board of training behavior, but if you have a dog lunging at other dogs when you're out walking it because it wants to go and play with someone, that's a training thing. Also, there might be a lot of other issues, actually. Maybe your dog is not having the opportunity to be social with other dogs. And yeah, but if your dog is scared of other dogs, it's been really good at scaring them away by acting in an aggressive way. So they've been using one path for a very long time. You need to stop using that path completely by not putting the dog in a situation where you are so close to the other dog that your dog is barking, because he's already extremely good at doing it. He's an expert. So in order to make a new behavior, you have to do something else. It's like to stop smoking, you have to find something else to do than to smoke. Okay, so you have to find an alternative behavior. Don't use the red door anymore. They know how to use the red door, and it's not doing anyone any good at walking through the red door. You have to find one of all the other doors, and those doors, you need help from a dog trainer to find out what is behind and how you can do it. So you work together with the dog, and you have to rebuild, kind of like I spoke, to get that everything even again, restoring back to original settings, fabric settings. You have to rebuild. When you're back to basic, you need to rebuild a new behavior and life. And you have to do that with your dog. So while you do that, you have to work on it. And it's a dog and an owner, pretty much, under construction. They need to be followed up by the veterinarian, maybe, and the dog trainer. It's a process that you need to do in order to help your dog. And if you do that, if you actually do it with aiming of not only getting rid of the problem, but getting rid of the real problem, to help your dog. That's why I like to help your dog instead of saying change his problem behavior. Because a dog that has problem behavior doesn't have a good life. If your dog is acting crazy, being aggressive because he's fearful or because he's in pain, he's not feeling good. He's not having a good life. So we have to help our dogs to be right to be healthy again if it's painful or if it's a illness, and with the behavior as well. Okay, I just wanted to tell you how you should help your dog. It might take a little longer, but the process is so enriching. It's so nice. I promise you, you will get to know your dog and yourself a lot better. Putting the lid on the problem, like I tried to explain earlier, to punish the dog for doing the behavior will not really, it can change that particular behavior, but some new behavior that you don't like will show for sure, because it's a problem. Somewhere along the line is a problem. Most likely there are actually several problems as well, underlying causes. And if you don't do anything about them, then we're not rid of them. Like I said in the beginning, if you put your dog in a cage, close the cage, because your dog is chewing everything, your dog might get frustrated in the cage and start chewing on the cage, or start chewing on himself, or doing other kind of abnormal behavior because it's frustrated for some reason, and you have to find out what that reason is. Okay, I hope this was useful. And if you are interested in working with dogs and problem behavior, I can promise you that that is really the best thing in the world, actually. It's very difficult because it's very emotional kind of job, I find. It's more difficult than I used to work for the Red Cross. And to be honest, I think it's more difficult to work with dogs because I'm very personally attached to dogs. Maybe not so much to humans. Okay. So thank you very much. Bye.